Okay, at this point, public comment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, we have one person that signed up for public comment. Mr. Thomas C. Jackson of 302 Park Avenue, Creedmoor, North Carolina, has signed up to speak to the topic of overview of both sides of topics at the Granville County Board of Education. So, Mr. Jackson, sir, I'm going to move the podium over here for you. And when you're ready, I'll start the timer with 5 minutes, and I'll give you a notice when you have 1 minute remaining.
Go ahead and start. My name is Thomas C. Jackson. I live at 302 Park Avenue in Creedmoor. And my topic tonight is a study of the word convoluted. Some might consider this story that I'm going to present to be pure fiction. Let me begin the story. One faction says they require $20+ million to accomplish what they need to accomplish, and can prove what they need with detailed figures. One faction forced the top professional hired person to go ask for the money, but that person was only able to secure part of the request. One faction says they will hand over from half to 2/3 of the request. One faction feels that in order to save $955,000 per year, then just close down 3 historically black schools and create some operational efficiencies. One faction feels that it is a capital sin to even suggest that any of the 3 historically black schools should ever be placed upon the chopping block. One faction refuses to even ask the question of what the county could do with some of the historically black schools if those properties were returned to the county. Maybe the converted use by the county of those buildings could be considered as acceptable, but we may never know until we hear the answer. One faction feels it's much better to just go get an additional $1 million from the keepers of the funds, and the concept of closing down any of the 3 historically black schools could be shelved. One faction feels that the 3 historically black schools need to continue to remain open, but with no increase of any additional funds. Those at the top were already given sufficient funds to speak. One faction feels that the closing of the 3 historically black schools should have happened 5 to 8 years ago. Why did this not happen long ago? Were the deficit numbers presented to the higher authority each year for many years and then ignored? One faction might wonder if all this convoluted nonsense had been made public, then might this have influenced the search for the top professional hired leadership? One faction says that those at the top that grant the money should all be fired. Another faction says that those at the top that spend the money should all be fired. Well, convoluted, and more convoluted. Let's all be thankful that what I was speaking about tonight was just pure fiction. However, one faction says that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Thank you for your attention. I'll cut my clock off.
Thank you, sir. There are no other persons signed up.
Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Education, guests, and friends of Granville County Public Schools. Happy holidays, too. Can you believe December is already here? I, too, would like to personally welcome our newest board member, Mr. Rob Rivers, and our longest-standing board member. I'm researching whether it's longest-standing in the state almost, with 29 years, to Mr. Leonard Pease, for the work and to the work of this board and district. To our newest elected chair, thank you for taking this post once again, and to our vice chair, congratulations. I look forward to working with all of you. Tonight marks a new beginning for Granville County Public Schools Board of Education. That's what change does, and indeed we have a little of that this evening. Whenever a new and or returning board member is sworn in, it is a special time for all of us to reflect and recommit ourselves to the work of the children in this district. It is the perfect opportunity to be reminded that the work we do as a collective body has great impact on many educators and students alike. As for me, it is important that no matter the work, we answer always the question, what is best for children, as we prepare them for the ever-changing world in which they must be able to live and work. Since we last met for a regularly scheduled Board of Ed meeting in November, much has occurred. We are extremely proud of the recent $8,000 raised in order to support the United Way campaign this year. We are grateful for this year's team leaders and for the tremendous outpouring of support of all who participated. We have also held both kitchen table conversations and had rich discussions and Q&A questions and answers with parents, students, and educators alike. I appreciate everyone who took the time to join us to learn more about our school district firsthand and to provide quality feedback for improvement. We have also had a series of lockdown and safety drills throughout the district, and I am super excited to share that we held our district's very first Safety Summit, filled with school leaders, emergency management officials, law enforcement, school resource officers, representatives from JCPC, and much, much more. Our neighbors from Granville Health Systems also participated, and our very own Safety Task Force Board Representative, Mr. Danny Ewey, and our Board Chair, Tom Houlihan, served on the panel. Thank you to everyone, especially our district's Safety Director and his team, Dr. Stan Winborn and Lynn Henderson, for coordinating the entire effort. The video of the event, ladies and gentlemen, is now online for those who may have missed that very late evening. Please check that out. At the recent NCAEOP annual conference, I'm delighted to report that we have a student scholar who's now won their award, their annual scholarship. We will showcase her in January, but we wanted to give you a heads up. She's from Webb High School, and our district office professionals found value in honoring this student. So we honored them this holiday season for the work they bring to our school district as well. All of our ambassadors, students, parents, teachers, and principals have now met with me a second time and have offered incredible insight and information for improvement consideration. Tonight you will hear from 2 audits. These audits have occurred, and we truly appreciate the departments who've contributed effortlessly for preparing for each. I'm now delighted to congratulate and announce for the very first time the winner of this year's first holiday card competition. We began this a couple of weeks ago across the district, and we have several wonderful pieces of art that will serve as runners-up. But tonight, gentlemen, I'd like to share with you that Miss Abigail Humphreys, a 9th grade student from J.F. Webb High School, has won. And this will be created into a postcard from us as Superintendent and Board of Education and mailed out for the holidays. So we're so proud of Miss Abigail, and when you get a moment, please congratulate her. Winter break and the holiday season is upon us, and I would like to thank everyone for their support of our district. I'm grateful for every educator and pupil this holiday season. I would personally like to thank our board spouses for allowing our board members to serve. As such, we will have a little luncheon in their honor, and I thank Frankie McLean for just learning that he will be paid for it. So, in your folders tonight, gentlemen, you will find some enrollment data on ethnicity and race I hope you find helpful. I encourage everyone to be reminded that our board requested additional information on Toller Elementary, and that information will be shared tomorrow night at Joe Toller Elementary at 5:30 p.m. prior to the 7 p.m. public hearing. Speakers may sign up at 6:30 p.m. And don't forget, the community survey for Toller is still out for our board, and the survey will be open until 5 p.m. this Friday. Hard copies are available here at Central Office, at the Public Library, and in the office at Joe Toller. There is a great deal going on in our schools besides the work of our board, but I cannot leave without publicly thanking the Granville Ed Foundation for the recent Prize Patrol grant announcements that came out last week. They've also given the $1,000 for each elementary school for the literacy grants this year. Ladies and gentlemen, Granville County is certainly on the move, and I wish for each of you a happy holiday season.
Thank you very much. Very, very helpful. All right, reports from the board. Any board members have reports to share with us?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to encourage the board, right after Christmas, South Granville will host their 9th annual holiday basketball tournament. And this is a tournament that's been going on that brings in teams, 16 teams from across the country to a certain degree. And just, I would encourage you to come and check out what Jake and his team is putting together for that. We were a little hesitant about announcing because we didn't know if we had a sponsor after our title sponsor had made some changes, but we secured a sponsor for the full map just the other day. So we're very excited and just want to invite the board to come participate in that. Great.
Now, when did South Granville go out west, or was it another school?
They're going
They're
to San
going.
Diego.
They're going late?
They're going to San Diego, I believe, sometime in December.
I was just wondering if the tournament and all that stuff was, anyway, just curious. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Mr. Udy,
Well, okay,
your hand first.
that's fine. This past month, I attended the North Carolina School Board Association Conference in Greensboro. Received some good information, but a lot of it didn't meet my expectations. The classes I attended, they seemed to talk more about what their company could provide than the actual topic of the class. But we did have a very good speaker at the end, whose name was Freebird McKinney, who is also the Teacher of the Year for North Carolina, and I can see why. He was very good. I also attended the Granville Ed Foundation meeting today. We have 3 dates that you may want to put on your calendar. The first one is Celebration Junior, February 21st at Butnerston Middle School. The second one is the celebrations for the adult is March 28th, and I do not have a location on that one. And then the pig in the raffle will be held at the Vina Wasi on May 3rd, which I think is a conflict with our Evening of Excellence.
As a result of today's conversation, we came back and met, we're going to change the Evening of Excellence.
So we're changing.
So we will change, since the Granville Ed Foundation has historically used the first Friday in May, we're going to move to May 2nd for the Evening of Excellence. And the celebration on March 28th will be at J.F. Webb High School.
And I also attended the Safety Summit panel, which I thought was very successful. I enjoyed it.
Anybody else?
As a newest
Mr.
board member, no, I will yield the floor
Defer
because
to
mine is going to be a little lengthy.
Okay.
On November 11th, I attended the North Carolina School Board Association legal training. Gcps and Dr. Houlihan were there as well. It's a very worthwhile 4 hours. We covered ethics, conflict of interest, open meeting laws, and parliamentary procedures. The biggest takeaway that I learned was that, and there's been some confusion, I think, even in board meetings that I've seen, is the role of an individual board member versus the board as a body corporate. And the question was asked about what can an individual board member do? And an individual board member has the right to obtain any public record, which is virtually every piece of information that is non-personnel related or does not violate any privacy acts or does not violate any stipulations of North Carolina General Statutes 134, where it totally outlines the public record laws. What that means is that a board member can ask for and receive information individually and not on behalf of the board. If a board member wants information that does not currently exist. Say, a board member is interested in a study about changing a school of choice from agriculture to engineering, and that study does not already exist, then the board itself would have to request that of the school district. So if the information already exists in a record, which could be a list, attendance record, performance results, anything, emails, letters, memorandum, anything that falls under the definition of a public record, then an individual board member has the right to that individual. So that clarified that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mims?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Houlihan, and my little note just went off. I want to bring to the chair and the new vice chair's attention, as you look at committee assignments, some information that I think needs to be taken into consideration. And I'm speaking specifically about the Finance Committee, since I served on the Finance Committee the last 2 years. I would say that since Finance Committee members have been excluded from the liaison meetings, those individuals who serve on the Finance Committee should be able to meet in the liaison meetings. Therefore, it might be most appropriate for the chair and the vice chair to be the Finance Committee, since you are speaking to the county commissioners and they control the funding that the Board of Education gets. Another reason is the Finance Committee and the entire board prioritize this year's budget. And then, along with the community, we voted on what those priorities were to be. The board came in and voted on those priorities. And then, in the end, we did not approve what we voted on as priorities. As a matter of fact, the superintendent came back after conferring with the staff and provided a list of priorities, and that's what we ultimately approved. Therefore, when I thought about this, I don't recall one committee, and we have 3, that presented anything to the board that the board really approved. Everything that was approved always had to come back before the entire board. And if that's the case, why have a committee if we're going to do it in a board meeting? And then finally, I guess about a month ago, we had a work session on finance. The Finance Committee was not consulted before that work session on finance. My point is, I am not sure there's a need for a Finance Committee. Those are my comments.
Would you mind going back to the point you made, not the last one, but the one before?
Previous one?
About the
Finance Committee got together. As a matter of fact, it was Mr. Cox, myself, Ms. Daly, and the superintendent, and we sat about right here. And we went over and came up with a list of priorities. That list was brought to the entire board. We racked and stacked, and this board voted on the list of priorities. And then in the end, we didn't approve what the Finance Committee nor the board had voted on. So I'm saying, why get together and spend the time if we're not going to do what the committee or even the board suggests? Okay? I guess one final thing. When will our videos be online? We have the safety summit. How about the meeting videos?
The meeting videos, in order to be considered minutes, must have closed captioning
Sure.
for the public. So our staff has been working on which software can best deliver that at an affordable price. So they've been getting folk in and out. And Dr. Wynn is hoping by January, we will be in a place where we'll be able to at least get it up to C. right now, they've still been doing their homework on it. The hope was this year, and it just was not able to happen once we saw what was there. So when we do unfold it and unveil it, we want it to be right. We want it to be affordable, and we want it to be something we can continue. We're just not there yet.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
You're welcome, thank you. Anybody else? You brought up the focus on safety, and I know that Mr. Udy has been working on this. I'd like to ask Mr. Udy if he would I won't suggest a committee at this point, but if he would take the lead on all of this, do the homework that needs to be done, then come back in terms of appointing a committee, if we could. All right, would you accept that? Great, okay, thank you. Okay, the next item is the liaison report. As all of you know, the board voted to go back to the commissioners to ask for $955,000. And we agreed during that time frame for the liaison committee to meet with their liaison committee and talk about this and for us to report back to you tonight. We did have, and you jump in wherever you want to, we did have a very good meeting. The key point they made is that they are certainly not opposed to the board coming before them, but wanted to let us know that they'll begin their budget process in January, and that in all likelihood the board will be asked to come, as we have traditionally come to speak before them at their retreat. And so the question is, do you want us to do something now? Or do you want us to wait a month or two when we'll be going in front of them at their retreat? So that's where we are. Once again, it was a good conversation, but that's where we are. And any comments? Yes, sir?
If what they're doing in January will affect the next year's budget.
Correct.
So what we need is something done to help us with this year's budget, is that correct? So I think
Let me just sort of jump in here if I can help you out with that.
Please.
When we had that discussion with the liaison from the county board, and my understanding of what they were saying was that if we come back at this time, it would be to our advantage to wait and come back when they do the budget. Now, I know we had said that we should go and ask them for money in this fiscal year. But I personally got the understanding or the feeling that that was going to be a waste of time for us to do that. We would be better served if we waited and made an effort to get that extra funding into next year's budget.
But isn't that what we all agreed on, to ask for this year's budget?
I think this year's budget is already in operation. I mean, as far as, I'm not sure what we would use the money for this year.
So that was
Go ahead.
in the reserve balance, is what I was thinking we were using. Because we would have to take that $955,000 out of the reserve. And I thought that was the whole reason for going back and asking for it now. And then they would hopefully include it in the next year's budget also. But that was what I thought.
Well, I think your thinking is what we were looking toward doing. But based on the information that we got from the liaison was that that was not going to happen in this fiscal year. But they didn't, I'm sort of a bottom line kind of guy. They didn't get to the bottom line, but they got close enough for me to understand where it's going.
Mr. Mintz?
Yes, Dr. Houlihan, I guess the question I would like to know is what was posed to the commissioners during the liaison meeting? Because I recall there being a request from this board that doesn't quite sound like what I'm hearing you report on.
Well, would you please explain?
The report that you said was that what I'm understanding is that we are supposed to come back at the budget season and ask them for money. I thought this board voted on asking the commissioners for a repetitive funding of this. We didn't ask for one-time funding. We asked for it to be repetitive. Please, somebody either step up and tell me, or Ms. Pettaway, check the minutes. Because I know we asked for repetitive funding, not just one time. Am I wrong, Mr. Smith?
No, you're correct.
I don't believe, and I may be wrong, but I'm reading the minutes, I don't believe the motion that was approved on minutes said repetitive. I may be wrong.
He just said that I was right, so that means
No, I'm
there's
talking
a,
about the minutes that we approved, that are, the motion that was made, that was approved, and what it says exactly in the minutes. And what I'm saying is the word repetitive, if I'm, and I may be wrong, but I read them, if the word repetitive, it is in there? Okay, double check on that if you would, if you could. Okay.
but we asked for continued funding. This wasn't supposed to be a one-time shot, and all was, because we were saying if we didn't get funding this year, we're gonna be back in the same boat next year and the year after. So,
Okay.
point me.
It does say repetitive? Okay, I stand corrected. All right, so what do you want us to do?
I think Mr. P said, you're not gonna get anything no matter what you do. So,
And at least
Yes, sir.
it's been said publicly, hopefully, that you asked what you was asked to ask. And then if the answer they gave us, that needs to be said publicly. So that there be transparency in what we're asking for and what we're being told. Because I believe that's what we're trying to become, is a completely transparent Board of Education in our communications with the commissioners and with the public. So I heard what y'all was saying in y'all's roundabout way of saying it. And Mr. Mims said what he said, because we need to stick to what we asked. And we need to say, if we ask, what we were told to ask. Because that's what we do. If I'm not mistaken, Liaison's committee represents the board with the commissioners. And it's not a two-party thing, that's a 7-party thing. And I think we should have that information going and coming back. And not let two people tell us a half story of what went down in the committee. Since y'all said there is a legal committee where two can vote for one board with another board, then if it's a legal thing where you can do that, then that information should come back to the full board, what was asked and what was being told. To me, if you're gonna do it that way, you might as well have minutes after liaison minutes and record what's being said between two boards, that you have honesty and transparency. If not, then to me, we're wasting our time. You should just let two people go and decide what they wanna ask, and two from the other board decide what they're gonna tell them.
Mr. Smith, I wasn't clear, you said something about half story or half information.
Well, y'all told us, I believe that's what made Mr. Williams ask that question, that he was trying to find out what was being asked of the commissioners by the liaisons committee. He did not hear what he thought we had approved to be asked. Am I wrong, Mr. Mayor?
you're right.
So
Absolutely.
that means if he did not get a full answer, he got less than a full answer. If half is inappropriate, then I'll resubmit half and say an inappropriate answer to what was supposed to be asked.
There should be minutes for the liaison meeting, correct?
To clarify, it's not a committee.
It's not.
And we've talked about this. My understanding is that historically, the chair and vice chair of each board have met informally, but it's not a designated committee. It's not a public body under the statute, and it has no authority or ability to take action. It's just a consultation.
But according to the public records laws, and I could be wrong on this, I'm asking, my impression is if members meet officially, whether it's just Mr. Houlihan and Mr. Peace, if they meet officially and are conducting business of the board, then there has to be minutes taken of that meeting. So if the two of them are meeting with two people from the commissioners, then there should be, according to public records law,
There's two ways that you can become a public body. One would be to have a quorum there. So if there was 4 board members there, it would be a public meeting. The other would be if it is a committee that's been created by this board, which under your policies would be by your chairman appoints committees. In researching this, when I came here, I was told that that is not what this body is. It was just essentially informal consultation. It was never formally created by the board or designated with any sort of task or authority. If the board wishes to create a committee, then it would become open meetings, but that's not what it has historically been.
What would happen if one body, we, made that an official committee, but the commissioners did not? Does that still create
Then
that?
each time they got together, it would be a school board committee meeting. You would need to post it publicly and so forth. It wouldn't, the commissioners could decide for themselves what it would be for them, but for the school board, it would be a public meeting.
I want to go back to make sure that we're real clear on what happened in the liaison committee, because I kind of feel as if somebody's looking for something that we did wrong. And I don't feel that that is very appropriate or fair. We went before that committee. I mean, we got with the committee and talked about the fact that our board approved a motion to ask the commissioners for $955,000. And we talked about that. And coming back to you, the response was that the budget season is starting. If we want to go in front of them, that's fine, but the budget season is starting next month, and we go from there. So the question is, do you want us to go in front of them now, or the next time they meet? Or do you want to wait a month when we're going to be going in front of them at that time? I want it to be real clear. We did our job like we're supposed to do it, and I don't appreciate the inference that we're not doing it the way we should. Because we are. We're trying to.
I need to respond by saying it's not, I wasn't inferring that you weren't doing your job. I was inferring that I didn't get the answer to the question that I thought the board had voted on for you to ask. And that was, are we going to get funding on a repetitive basis to help defray some of these expenses that we have? And what I heard from you was a single year, and that wasn't what we voted on. We voted on a repetitive basis.
Well, the response from the commissioners